and how are we going to cope with it? Today, we are going to further deep dive into one of the aspect, and that is the global supply chain aspect. We talked about that there is geopolitical reasons and aspect of this war. There is a religious reasons and religious impact of this war, and then last but not least, but the global supply chain impact of this war. And really, why is this war, you know, going on in this manner, and how is this going to impact our global supply chain, and then of course the overall global economy? So I am not sure that how many of us really know that there are actually 6,000 there are actually 6,000 daily products we use. Yes, there are daily products, 6,000 daily products we use. They are made out of the petroleum or made out of, oil and gas. So even though we say oil and gas, but as we know that oil and gas do not come in this form we use, which is, I will call it purified form we use, is not that how it comes from the ground. Especially, it's really the crude oil, and then the crude oil get refined in the refineries, and these are huge plants, and they require very long time to fire up or to close. So when they are shut down, it is not easy to just fire them up next day. It has a very long process. And so basically, the war has very deep impact on our global supply chain. And we may have not even started seeing that. However, many companies have already, filed force majeure. It's a French word, so I'm not sure if I am really pronouncing it right, but it's force majeure or a force majeure. So basically, this is what companies do when they have some external environment which is beyond their control. They can have a legal protection that they announce force majeure, and then basically they do not have to perform their or fulfill their obligation of supply chain, especially delivery or prices when that time comes. So now, of course, it's a major event and it's a war. It's out of anybody's control other than the government's. So the companies have their legal protection and they have announced force majeure. So nobody can really sue them or demand the supply or the prices. So I mean, there are I since I was in actually manufacturing industry, which was really directly related to oil and gas industry, and I used to deal with major polymer producers and plastic manufacturing goods producers, and whether those goods are used or commodities are used or components are used in medical devices, consumer electronics, consumer industrial, and consumer goods. So I was dealing with all those, and I had an opportunity to actually visit lots of these factories, lots of these factories in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, in Bahrain, in actually Taiwan, in China, even in Latin America, throughout Europe. So I had opportunity to actually see those properties and see the production and support the production and deal with the supply chain. And so I've dealt with the Iraq wars and all that global supply chain dilemma of the Iraq war. So I can really see that how my friends who are still in the same supply chain are dealing with. This is really a nightmare, an absolute nightmare they're dealing with. Yes, International Energy Association IEA has announced 400 million barrel release of their stockpiles, and they're saying that they are going to release that in the market. But as we know, that's hardly 4 days of global requirement, because globally we use about 104 million barrels of oil and gas, on daily basis. So if they have released 400 million, and yes, it is the largest ever release, but that honestly is not even, it's not even, significant in a bigger scheme of things. And as you know, that basically state of Hormuz is kind of controlling 20% of global, uh, supply chain of oil and gas. That means almost, 20 million barrels a day they're controlling. So if that's not coming in the capacity, that's a major impact on the global supply chain and world economy. So basically, there are only two things have to happen. Either the Strait of Hormuz have to open by some sort of power or entity, or some truce has to happen between the powers so that ships can really sail. There are really, you know thousands and thousands of ships they are waiting, and it's not just the direct industry we have to see. We have to see all the indirect industries. First of all, we have to see that what is the oil and gas industry really directly dealing with. It directly deal with many industries. It's not just oil and gas that we burn in our cars and in our jets or in our tanks or in our at our home. No, it is actually a lot more than that. So basically, it's called crude oil derivatives. So these derivatives are, then goes into polymers and polymerization, and then you get the all kind of nylon and rubber and polyester, and then you further get other products from it. And then, on the other hand, all the other, which is basically in the beginning used to be thrown away. Now that gunk which you used to throw away, now that's used in cosmetics, that used in many, even in the medical industry, that used in all kind of industries, and we make lots and lots of products out of it. We make fertilizers. We make, even your bitumen and asphalt, all the roads, that is also a crude oil derivative. Lots and lots of commodities we deal with, whether that is a saran wrap, or that is basically a small, valve goes in the heart. That's all is from oil and gas. So we cannot imagine even the direct impact to human life of these products, so to speak. These are chemical products in the chemical industry. I would say the chemical industry heavily depends on this production. Now look at the indirect impact, because the Gulf region, particularly, there are not many, fields, green fields you can see in the Gulf countries. Gulf countries have abundant deserts, and those deserts have abundant oil and gas. But what they don't have is they don't have their uh, basic life needs. That's the reason these countries were not very developed in the past. They got developed recently because they learned how to desalinate the water and take the ocean water and convert into a drinking water. They actually develop industries where basically they are taking all the food products from outside, like countries like Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh, and some from Iran too. Iran does have some greenery and some fields, and they do produce some, some vegetables and some fruits and whatnot. But reality is, the rest of the Gulf, most of it really import most of their daily needs. They can't even sustain without having imports on daily basis. So if state of Hormuz is really the neck route coming from India and Pakistan and Bangladesh and all that side of the world, I mean, how you imagine that they're going to sustain? And these are the same countries who are giving us trillions of dollars for of their safety and security. And not only we have made them a bit unsafe through this war, very skeptical to say the least, and very worried, because they are not worried just for their safety and security, but they're also worried for their livelihood and their even the life itself. Because if they don't have water, you know what's going to happen. I mean, people are talking about, oh, Israel and America is going to, if Iran doesn't learn, then Israel and America is going to nuke them. Please don't say that. It's a very, very big statement to say, because God forbid, if we do that and they retaliate and hit the desalination plants or anything else like that, the entire Gulf will go absolutely haywire against us. We may not seem to care right now, but it will not be easy. I mean, the whole Europe and Middle East will be absolutely on the roads, on the streets, and then of course China and Russia, because China and Russia are major, especially China is major importer of oil and gas, and then they're taking that oil and gas and converting it into different products. It's just going to be impossible to deal with the dilemma. So then we are going to have, major, major chaos in supply chain. So, we have to understand that this is really a war of supply chain and trade routes. And I explained last time that there are 8 different corridors China is building through their Road and Belt Initiative. And in that initiative, they also have ocean and ports. So they are really building the entire global network for last 20, 30 years. Why? Because they're producing half of the goods for the whole world, and those goods have to transport, and they would have been totally naive not to build those routes. Unfortunately, we didn't build those routes, but they did. And now the best thing, and I think the 21st century thing would be to build alliances and contracts and diplomacy. Instead, we're still using the old technique of bombing countries, and unfortunately, it's coming to haunt us. I mean, we can take these steps, but these steps take nations back, not just a year or 2 year. It take the nations back decades, sometimes centuries. And God forbid, I hope it doesn't happen, and I hope sanity prevail, and we will be able to manage this chaos. But I must tell you, as a global supply chain student, it is not going to be possible to totally avoid it. The supply chain has its own echelons, and fortunately, so far, we haven't seen that big of impact, even though the the barrel of oil has gone from 70s to 130 and back to 90s now. But still, uh, the real problem is not just the price, but also the availability of these products. And there are many, many stages of these products, going from the drilling all the way to refining, and then further synthesizing and further refining and further transportation, and going to different type of products and chemicals. It will be months before we see the real impact. Do you remember COVID? I was building homes in COVID, and in the beginning of like 6 to 8 months, we didn't even see much, issue other than the prices, because of course producers like to increase prices based on supply demand, but also based on the news. And the news was that the demand is going to be there, but the supply is extremely tight. So that's what happened. And then when the COVID was, when the COVID was gone, but the supply chain issue continued for almost a year, year and a half, and now we are in the same dilemma. You are going to see this supply chain impact not just for a few months, but few years. This is a major chaos in the global supply chain, and then again, it is going to deter our future, and it's going to really create new alignments, because whatever happened out of this war, it's going to really make countries think again their diplomacy and their foreign policy. They have to see that who do we have to align for our sustenance, for our daily, needs. I mean, if the countries and population have all these rich resources and they have a lot of money, but if they can't even live and they can't even sustain and can't even have water and food and basic essentials, what do you think they're going to do? They are not going to rely just on a big power. And matter of fact, that power is also uh, is not staying unipolar anymore. It's actually multipolar world again. And so it's going to be very, very difficult. So I think it's important that we recognize and realize other parts, and we understand this global supply chain challenge we have, and we get prepared for that global supply chain channel. We have to, one hand, build our own channels, and the other hand, we need to build alliances with the with those countries who have already built these channels, because in the future you are not going to have nuke war, you're going to have global supply chain war. And that is this war, this era is the beginning of understanding of the global supply chain impact. So uh, I just want to, today share with you guys that the challenge we have is not just the challenge in the, you know, oil and gas prices, but is the challenge of different industries. There's agriculture industry. I mean, 30% of fertilizer come through State of Hormuz. And, you make pesticides are all made of through this industry. The all kind of greenhouses and all the films and all those things are dependent on this industry. You have fuel derivatives where you have, all those, all those derivatives that goes into jet fuels and all kind of equipments. Then you have, of course, the petrochemicals, and that is ethylene, propylene, butadiene, and xylene, toluene, benzene. These are all the products, petrochemicals that go into building polyethylene, polypropylene, PVC, polystyrene, PET, and many other polyesters. So we have to think about that how deep these supply chain challenges goes. And then you have synthetic materials like synthetic rubber and nylon, polyester, acrylic, a major impact on the auto industry. I mean, you know that if you are building a car and 10% of the car is dependent on in this industry, I think it's more. But even if it's 10%, you can't ship a car. What are you gonna do? You're gonna have to hold the production. So this industry impacts lots and lots of industry. And then construction materials, heavily dependent on this industry. Heavily dependent. It's not just the asphalt, but insulation as well. All the insulation are dependent on this industry. Sealants, coatings, PVCs, many other chemicals. And then again, even your detergents, you're not going to believe it. But yes, of course, your detergents, your cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, paints and coatings, cleaning products, packaging products, all type of packaging products. I mean, these bottles we use, these all type of wraps we use, is all we live in. This disposable world. Now we are very much dependent on these oil and gas. So I just wanted to share today that we have a major impact of this war, and we hope, if somebody want to save face, save the face, say whatever you want, but we need to really, stop this war as soon as possible for the best of humanity. And for it, again, it's not just if the whole Gulf countries don't produce, or they cannot sustain, or they cannot eat, or they cannot drink water, then what's going to happen to Europe? What's going to happen to us? We don't live in an isolated world nowadays. We are very much dependent, and especially Ask any of your supply chain guru out there, and they will tell you that how dependent and how interlinked we are, and how important it is to have this supply chain restored. If we don't restore the supply chain, it's not just going to impact Gulf countries and Iran, India, China, Russia. No, it's not just gonna impact them. It's gonna impact the entire world. And don't forget, half of the world live in global south, and we have a major challenge on our hand. And sooner we deal with this challenge, and we talk to our decision makers and stop this war, better it is. It is going to be, unfortunately, a chaos, no matter what, but a shorter chaos is far better than long term chaos. God bless you all. Thank you.